20 minutes ago, when I was standing backstage, I had a fear. It's not the regular, usual fear that I can forget my slides. Don't get me wrong, I did it several times. Last time, 2 months ago in Thailand. No, this is something deeper, something that existed much longer than my SEO career. I'll get back to that later. But now I want to show you something that can make some people afraid. For 20 years, the main goal of marketers when it comes to search engines was very simple: just get the click. But in 2026, this game is over. According to recent studies, roughly 60% of all search experiences end up with 0 clicks. Why? Well, because people they don't want to get just a set of 10 blue links anymore. They want to get an answer. And if you're not featured in that answer, you can be invisible. McKinsey also forecasts that by 2028, $750 billion will be influenced by LLMs. Well, it doesn't mean that LLMs will go and make a purchase on your behalf. No, but it means that users will ask a recommendation for a product inside an AI. We also did our custom researches. We interviewed 1,000 people in US and UK, and more than half of them think that in the upcoming 5 years, AI will fully substitute traditional search engine. And this is happening already. So here's a screenshot from one of our e-commerce customers, which shows that recently 526 referral visits came from LLMs. And also wanted to point to attention that Google's AI mode, it's not here in this data, because Google typically has even more searches. Also, some marketers don't understand yet that the customer journey also changed. So it used to be very straightforward. You look for a product, you open several websites, you compare the products, you read the reviews, then potentially you go away, and then maybe come back, right? But now, when you ask AI for recommendation, it gives you the list of products or brands that you can purchase, and the decision is made in the LLM. So if you're not influencing that, probably users will buy your competitors' products. But who am I to talk about that, right? Why I'm on the stage. So let me introduce myself. My name is Konstantin. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Ethical SEO. We are an AI SEO agency helping SaaS and startups, companies, e-commerce in US and UK to increase their online visibility. I also am an international speaker. I spoke in Chiang Mai, Thailand 2 months ago, and will be speaking in India and China this year as well. And an interesting fact that my largest client, their recent funding round was above $1 billion in a single round. 2 of our customers in portfolio are billion-worth companies. So, I can share something. Maybe you will take something valuable from that. And I was very lucky to work with some local Estonian and companies from Baltics as well. So, before we dive deep, we need to understand what's the landscape of AI search. Where are we fighting? So let's start from the basic first one. We call it the push. So typically, AI overviews. It's Google's a way of making a summary, right? So the goal here is to be the definition. So for instance, if a user is looking for best winter running shoes for a woman in Thailand in January, if you write something generic, like a poetry, that our winter running shoes are designed for comfort and performance and cold, that's boring. What you need to do is make a definition, a statement, more specific, right? And that's why if you do that, if you speak about some attributes of the products, you'll probably get featured. The most common right now is the pool, right? So typically AI mode, Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT. So the goal here is that it's used for more deep conversations. You need depth. It's interesting that there's a specific method used called query fan-out strategy. So what does it mean? So let's assume a user is looking for best winter running shoes for a woman in Tallinn in January. What the AI does, it first of all breaks this question or prompt into several sub-questions, right? So it tries to understand what's the average temperature in Tallinn in January. It will try to understand, okay, what's the best grip for icy conditions? It can compare several products. And what is more important, it tries to forecast what will be a follow-up questions, right? Because, well, once you buy shoes, you need to understand, okay, how to take care of them, right? Can you use that for other purposes? So that's called query fan-out process. And also the third is the engine, so typically like Perplexity. It's a citation-first search engine. It heavily cites sources, which is really good for research, right? Because you know exactly where does this information come from. For instance, if you make a comparison page of your product and your competitors, right? If Perplexity cites that or features that, it will source back to your page as well, which is very useful because you can show your perspective on the product. And here's the thing. I want to speak about some misconception. Google is not dying, right? So think about it. Google's index and Bing's index are the two most fascinating libraries humanity has ever seen. It crawls and indexes billions of pages every day. The problem is the librarian. So typically, let's assume how the search engine worked the last 20 years. You come to the librarian, you ask a question, and he comes back with the 10 books and says, yeah, please find the answer there. What the AI does, or let's call it analyst, it goes to the same library, it takes hundreds of books, processes them, and gives you the answer. So you don't need to trick the librarian anymore. You just need to make sure that your book is the easiest for AI to extract from the library, or make sure that you are mentioned in the most important books on the shelves. Here's another thing. Why you shouldn't bet against Google. I personally believe, like already a year ago, understood that. You see, when it comes to search engines, the best thing comes from those that offer better experience. And when it comes to regular LLMs, they have a limited information about us. When it comes to Google, we have Google Merchant Center, Gmail, YouTube, right? Maps, etc., Google Pay. So they have so much more information that I wouldn't advise you betting against that. And here's a slightly technical thing. Just stay with me for 30 seconds. So how does analyst decide which page to choose? You see, when AI considers a text or a phrase, it doesn't read it like we humans do, right? It turns that into a thing called vector embedding. It's a numerical representation of something, just a set of numbers. Imagine a 3D map of the universe, where each star represents a word. Coming back to our example about the winter shoes, if you write something like comfortable for cold weather, it's very generic, it's very far. But when you start speaking about specific attributes that are relevant to the same query fan-out process that I described better, there is a gravitational force that pulls together. And basically means that when AI checks two vectors, two set of numbers, it understands, okay, these are very close, so it is relevant to the user. I will show that as an information. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so another interesting thing. Some believe that just doing traditional SEO is enough to succeed. I would say that partially, yes, of course, SEO is still the fundamental, especially in Baltics, because, well, there are a lot of limitations here. It comes from, for example, you can't properly use Google's Merchant Center, right? So you don't see the same things you see in US, and I will show you later how their AI mode looks like. But still, some of the search engines, AI systems have a bigger overlap. So what this does, it's a study that shows what is the probability that if you rank in top 10 search results in Google, you will be shown also in the top results, let's say, in AI models. And we see that in Perplexity, basically roughly 90% of cases, if you rank in top 10 results in Google, you probably will appear also in results in Perplexity. When it comes to AI mode and ChatGPT, this is a different story. They use a little bit different training data and sources, but the strategies I will share today, they will work for all of them. Quick example from Estonia. So I just inputted, like, it's in Estonia, I requested like the best running shoes at winter. Couple of, conclusions that I made. First of all, on the right side, it's ChatGPT screenshot. There is no resources from Estonia. So I asked in Estonian, and it cites me sources in English. So in ChatGPT, either they don't trust local sources, or as they're working on their index themselves, because index is always, let's say, a dependency on Google, they didn't index enough local languages. So also, that's AI mode on the left side. It gives already more specific Estonian sources, but the quality is so poor. For example, when it comes to shoes, you have opportunity if someone sells shoes, free advice, just write some, reviews or more guides on how to choose shoes, what's the best shoes, etc. Right? So, for example, Sportland wrote a guide which is like 10 years old. Like, come on. Another example. This is robots. So robots vacuum cleaners. Again, on the right side, ChatGPT, the same pattern, no Estonian sources. On the left side, we see here an interesting thing. So first of all, you see there are two cases. You can be mentioned as a brand of the shop, right, a retailer, or you can be mentioned as a brand, right? So let's dive in. Why Euronics appear here? So, well, they have a guide, as I mentioned, right? So they have a guide about how to choose the best, vacuum cleaner. So it's a very easy piece of content. You can create that, and it increases your chances of appearing in LLMs. The same comes to the robot, a brand I mentioned before, right? This one. So why this robot is here? Well, they have an article on Postimees, which is like a commercial article because it's CISO Turundus, and they just wrote that. My suggestion, typically what I did, experimented in Estonia, because I have several businesses, you can create commercial articles, but do that in listicle format, like best vacuum cleaners, like so top 10 vacuum cleaners or whatever. So it usually works pretty well, and I will speak about that later as well. So let's start from the first tactic. Structure is king. Again, when AI comes to your website and pages, it doesn't read that like how we do, right? So it cuts the page into pieces called passages. So like chunks. Some advice. First of all, by the data we see that AI cites typically things that are in the first 30% of the page. Probably they just don't want to go lower because it requires resources, financial resources. Also, AI really likes easy extractable data, so clear like tables, lists, right? So don't write comparison of several brands in a paragraph sentence. And also, what is the most important is that break your content into clear semantic units. So think about it. Let's say if you, again, coming back to the example of our winter running shoes is warm. So someone, asks a question on your website. You have this description of the product. it's really poor because AI will be really confused. What are you talking here about? About that they have warm materials that it suits a specific temperature, or they're like have a soft material. So he's so confused. So always try to have distinct paragraphs with the heading that tackles a specific attribute and then a description. So it can be a paragraph long, but just speak about one thing at a time. Don't mix things. Another thing is that, well, in the same logic as an SEO, you need some trust signals. So it comes from initially idea of citations in academic literature, right? When you write a thesis, someone wants to use that, it cites back to you as an author. It's the same logic in backlinks. But now, in LLMs, it's also important not just the backlink, but the brand mention and the context around the brand mention, right? So that's why, again, third-party listicles, top 10, whatever products, e-commerce, whatever. So it's the best one. Just make sure that there's commercial searches for that. Reddit, there's a study on the right side which shows that Reddit is among the most cited websites in LLMs. And why? Well, Reddit has a deal with Google for exchanging and training the LLMs, probably because of that. For B2B, LinkedIn, etc. Also, definitely, I saw that YouTube and social like Instagram can be a very good source of training data. One advice, when you put YouTube, put transcriptions as well, because then you simplify for AI to extract information from your content. Even though they have other models to do that, it just consumes less credits for them, so it's just cheaper. Tactic number 3, again, if you write something generic, AI doesn't like. It likes the information gain, right? When it has something new. So, for example, again, coming back to our winter shoes, you can write something with more attributes, like it fits specific weather, specific material. Just a quick question, do you think that it's correct, how I wrote here? I'm just checking whether you follow me, because it's wrong. Because you don't need to write in one paragraph, right? You need to divide that into chunks. So each specific section speaks about specific thing, right? Why? Because think about it. When you have a question, it divides that into sub-questions with a query fan-out process, right? It tries to find information on the web. If you have one page that answers all the questions, it can pick only you as a source. If you just have one attribute, it needs to spend money and go on other websites and find that. It's just common sense. Now, more practical, so checklist. And by the way, as I understood, the presentation will be sent to everyone, so don't worry. First of all, one thing you need to understand that, yes, we need to increase LLM visibility. But how about understanding whether AI actually provides correct information about you, right? I just read recently a case when CMO was sharing that they analyzed what are their top pages at LLMs that are cited, and they realized that the most popular page was 5 years old article about their pricing strategy. 5 years old, outdated, and just imagine a user reads that, then goes to your website, and they're like absolutely different story. So you can ask a simple question from ChatGPT or whatever model, just that it explains how he sees that, and if you go to the sources, you can adjust the pages if they're outdated. Definitely, if you use Google Merchant Center, it's limited in Baltics, but still it exists, right? You just can't use it actively. Make sure that the product names, prices, and availability is accurately set up there. Freshness, content needs to be updated every 3 months, ideally, because then it's cited. The studies show that it's cited 20-30% more. Structure, semantic structure, as I mentioned, right? So definitely use the tables, bullet points, don't write long paragraphs. Minor reviews. So one idea is that you can use, again, Claude. If someone use Claude with co-work, you can set up integration with API. So definitely check Claude Cowork. I was just having an intensive training this weekend, amazing things you can do. So you can connect to API, and let's think if you want to crawl all your reviews, you can set up an agent, it will give you a report, and then you can use exact phrases for your product descriptions, which first increases the chances of LLMs to cite you. Secondly, it's just, when you speak the same language as your customers, increase your conversion. Trust signals, again, if you have some reviews, etc., put that in the top page. If you don't have review websites, collections, create them. And definitely, it's important to appear in the training data, right? As I mentioned, create articles, ideally commercial intent, like top, best, whatever, in local websites, social media, Reddit, Quora, YouTube, Instagram, and yeah. Now about measuring. So that's the tricky part right now. First of all, the easy thing is that you can set up a specific, oh, sorry, my bad, stable URLs. So last thing is that when you delete, if you run out of stock, don't delete the page. It's better, because when you delete a page of your product, right, it will disappear from LLMs. It's better to just write that it's out of stock, and probably it will be maybe appearing at some point, right? It's better to do like that. And sorry, this is a slide. So when it comes to measuring LLM, it's tricky part, right? Because there's a thing called dark funnel. So what is a dark funnel? It means that when a user asks for a product recommendation, as with the Robotex example, remember, there was just a brand name. What happens further is that you Google this product name, and it creates direct traffic or branded search, and you can't attribute that to LLMs. It's impossible. There are no means. So the only thing we can do right now is we can either set up in GA4 report referral traffic when people click on the sources, like with Euronics, right? And the second, which is more accurate, is self-attribution models. So self-attribution forms. So ask users like, how did you hear about us, right? There are also like a lot of speculation about LLM prompting tools. So LLM prompting tools are basically tools where you can input several typical questions that your users might be asking, and then they will be trying to understand what's your visibility in different LLMs. It doesn't work pretty well, actually. So we use that, but it's not very accurate. Okay, so about the future. Interesting. So I'm not sure. Probably some of you use AI mode or ChatGPT. Maybe some of you try to search for information, but it doesn't look like this, right? So it's ChatGPT and AI mode in US. So when you look for information, you will have a specific products listed there, and when you click on that, you can see different vendors that sell it and their reviews, and you can go on the website and purchase that. ChatGPT was experimenting even more with instant checkout. So what it means is that, let's say, if you're looking for a product, you can just purchase them directly in ChatGPT. Right now, they switched this off. They understood that users prefer still to make decision on the last touch point on the website of the product. So they just allow users to see different vendors, and they can just visit the website directly. And it's so interesting, so funny, like if we speak about like 5 years perspective, so it will be definitely an agentic AI, probably in Baltics, not in 5 years, but we'll get them there. So think about it. When you will need a running shoes in 5 years period, you will ask AI like, hey, I need running shoes, I have size 42 for these conditions, and so on. And it will go on the website, find the information, make a purchase on your behalf, and you will just get the delivery. The funny thing here is that for 20 years we were told you need to create content for people. Seems not anymore, right? We need to create them for machines. So yeah, that's the future. And now about the last comment. So remember, 20 minutes ago, when I started my speech, I told you about the fear. So I was not speaking about the fear of forgetting the slides. You see, for most of my life, I've been hiding. I've been trying to avoid meeting new people. I was, letting my fear to control my life. You see, the thing is that I've been born with a hand trauma. And it turned out that not always I met nice people. The first time I spoke about that 2 months ago, and so many people came to me, and I understood that it's important for people. Why I'm saying that to you? You see, when it comes to business and visibility, we often forget that in order to find good people, we need to be authentic. We need to speak about that, show up, and be visible. Because that's the only way how you can find people that really care about you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Konstantin. It was... Oh, no, don't go anywhere yet.
No.
We have some questions for you, quite a lot of them, actually.
Okay.
And thank you for such a practical talk. It was like a crash course on SEO, like really super practical, all the steps, amazing. We have a popular question that might need some more background. The question is, what if the company has restricted the AI from getting the information from their page? Can you do that? And why should anyone do that?
I know that there are like systems right now that block on the servers, on the server side. I forgot the term. It starts with the F. But basically, there are ways that block. For example, news media. They just don't want that someone consumes for free their content, right? Because basically, AI crawls that and that pushes that. So that's why they try to make a subscription models or something like that, which makes more sense. But you know, if we are a business, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, if it's a channel, even though still it's like very low numbers. Because if we compare, again, in e-commerce here in Baltics, very limited, right? So definitely SEO is still a thing you need to catch. And the percentages of, if we compare that to organic, is like still very low, relatively, right? So we're in the beginning, like, but yeah, if you set up a fundament for the future, definitely it's more beneficial.
Good. There have been some rumors that Google is detecting AI-generated content and somehow punishing it. How is it? Does it really matter or no?
I mean, the thing is that, for example, how we do it, you need to use AI. The question is how, right? If you just prompt that with one click and you just use the article and put that, yeah, of course, it's not even the problem with AI. If you hire a Filipino that writes you in $10 the same quality article, it also will be ignored by Google. So the question is like, right now the problem is not writing, the problem is coming up with unique ideas, angles, right, data. That's something that should be valuable. And if you create a proper unique information and use AI to speed up your process, absolutely fine, and people are using that. Just don't spam, that's the thing.
What if a product description includes visuals to describe the products? Is it more difficult to read for LLMs?
No, I mean, again, it just depends on, for images you have alt text, right? So alt text attribute explains what this image is about, right? So from semantical point of view, definitely it's valuable. Again, for videos, if it's YouTube, put the transcription, right? Then you can be featured with this video on your product and then people can end up on your page, right? So yeah, it's fine. Again, it depends, like, just like, of course, you don't need to make your page very heavy because the speed is still important, right? But if you optimize the speed, you know, put alt tags, transcription for the videos, I think it's absolutely fine.
Good. But what about the searches on social media channels? There's a hypothesis that maybe Google isn't the king anymore, that people are searching for products on socials.
I mean, definitely the search experience changes, so you shouldn't be just putting all your eggs in one basket, definitely. So it's a multi-channel, multi-touch process right now. That's why you need to have YouTube, social media presence, of course, because decisions are not made, especially in expensive products, and I'm more in B2B industry, right? So decisions are not made in one channel, multi-channel, like multi-touch, 6 and 7 touch points. So it can be a video, a webinar, a newsletter, you know, social, organic, paid ads, various. So, but percentage-wise, I would say that right now, just check a study today that shows definitely organic clicks go down, paid ads go up, and social more or less is the stable, a little bit growing up. So we know that organic is going down because a lot of organic was informational intent questions that AI now responds. Right? And also one comment, sorry, quickly.
Yeah.
So also don't think about LM as the thing that we use for searching. Actually, right now, only 50% of the use cases are about searching. We just start doing other things that we didn't do before, like extracting data, analyzing data, and so on. Right? Yep. Thank you.
So thank you so much. It was an amazing talk. Give him a big round of applause.
Can I just?
Yeah. Should I bid on?
No. Did you like it?
Did you do the video?
Did you like the? Yeah, I do the video.
Amazing video.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.